Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of My First Job, the podcast. On our 25th episode, we started talking to young people who are actually pursuing different careers and they had their own hopes and their own dreams. This has become a monthly feature, and we're glad to have three people from Mumbai, one of whom is into law, a second is into recruitment, and Mahima has a master's in sociology and psychology. It's interesting to see what career dreams they have and where they're planning to go. My name is Venugopal Nair, and I head an agency called Ideascape. Now I'll introduce them one by one and bring them onto the stage, and we'll take it from there. So, Mahima Choudhary has a double major in psychology and sociology, and she has done everything from being a tour guide to an assignment with Teach for India. So we'll figure out what Mahima has in mind for her career in future. Welcome to the show, Mahima.
Hi, Venu. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone.
Okay, next we have Salman Shaikh, who works as a paralegal. And one of the things that we found out was that he has an interest in physics as well. So I don't know where physics and law intersects, but we'll figure out. Okay, welcome to the show, Salman.
Hi, Mr. Venugopal and Mahima.
Okay, great. And finally, uh, Rachana Pandey. Okay. Uh, at her age, most people are looking for a job, but she's also helping a lot of them find jobs. So, what does it mean to get into recruitment early on? And how do you find people who are right for a particular profession? Welcome to the
Hi,
show, Rachna.
hi, Mr. Vinu. Thank you. Hi, Mahima. Hi, Salman.
Hi.
Okay. So, let's start with Maima and then figure out, did you have something specific in mind when, there's this phase when everyone is asking you, what do you want to do next, which is, studies. And then there's a phase when they say, where do you want to work? What do you want to do? And most of the time, I don't think people are they're ready to answer the question. Or were you ready?
Thank you for the question, Venu. I'd say since school, all of these questions keep bombarding us, right? From a very young age, I remember when I was in my first grade, and my teachers would themselves be like, oh, she is going to ace it, whatever she might choose to become. And at that time, I used to think maybe I'll become a teacher or probably an air hostess. And as I was, progressing in my school, and I realized that there was just not one thing that was fascinating, but so many more things. My dreams of becoming a teacher, an air hostess, then slowly went on to becoming an artist. And at some point, I also thought of becoming an actress. And I was like, there's so much to explore. And by the time the schooling thing came to an end, reality hit, because then you had to actually pick up a degree and actually go ahead with choosing a stream. So this was the point where things had to be narrowed down. Dreams had to be put down into categories to figure out what exactly I want to pursue. So at that point, fortunately, I had teachers who were very kind, and we had a legit session where we sat down to discuss what it is that I am passionate about. I think a lot of us don't really sit and reflect on what are these things that we want to pursue. And to a greater degree, I feel we are inclined towards pursuing things that our parents tell us to, or maybe what we have
Right.
seen others pursuing, right? So fortunately for my family, I had the liberty to choose anything that I wanted to. And this came with several confusions, because that meant I had the world to explore. But where do I begin? And this is where my confusion started. Fortunately, through a lot of conversations and just like your podcast, back then there were so many channels I could explore just to understand my interests, and I used it. So I used to check out YouTube videos, talk to professionals just to understand what might be in common and what might catch my interest. And so I took up
Okay.
arts, and even when I took up arts, I wasn't very sure of a profession. I couldn't narrow it down. But a couple of things like subjects caught my interest, particularly psychology. And one of my teachers, who kind of knew
Okay.
me very well, suggested that psychology kind of goes well with my personality. So I took my bachelor's in psychology. And even if you ask me right now, being a project coordinator, I never really thought that I could merge psychology with management. So there's
Yeah,
an
but then
intersection
psychology,
of
Mahima, is part of, yeah, it's part of every job. It's something that it's not a skill which is limited to just one job. So let's figure out from the others also what they had in mind, and then we'll come back. Okay. So Salman,
absolutely.
what was your early what were the things that you considered? Because law is not something
Yeah,
you,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Thank you, Mr. Vinu, for yeah. So yeah, as from the beginning, I didn't actually, I never thought I would come into law. But as you know, I had many interests. Like as Mahima also pointed out that she had various interests. Even me, I had very varied interest and very vast scope. So earlier, I wanted to be a scientist. Like all as a kid growing up, everybody wants to be a scientist, astronaut. So I also wanted to explore moon when I was in third standard, go
So
to
did you
Mars
have
and
any
etc.
lawyers in the family?
No, I'm the first generation lawyer.
Okay.
So yeah, so
Okay.
the area of interest in law comes when I was in sixth and seventh standard. So there was a teacher of mine who used to take us to these debates, and I really love debate. I mean, like I love to argue, I love to public speak, and it was just awesome experience. And we used to go out, we used to have a debate competitions and etc. And there is where I figured out that. Yeah, this research, this programming, putting everything, jotting down into one thing, it really interests me. It really puts my word and expresses me in a huge way. Also, as you pointed out that how physics and law interconnects, I'm gonna point it out that there was one of the justice who came to our college to give a speech, and he mentioned that being a lawyer he has to have all the skills. He has to have the skill of psychologist, he has to have the skill of medical engineer and everything. He has to be a biologist,
Okay.
he has to be a psychologist, he has to be everything to be a lawyer. So when you are in front of the judge, when you are handling the cases, you deal with everything. Like you deal with like basic biology also. Sometimes like what medicine you took, we have to consider everything. So
Exactly.
being a
Exactly.
if you are in the field of law, you encounter anything anytime and everything everywhere.
It
And
could happen. Right.
as yeah,
Great, Salman. So, like you said, there is a definite need. I see teachers and I see peer group pressure. So, Rachna, what is your story? How did you decide to get into recruitment? Is that something that you said, because most of the people are saying, okay, I'll go to HR because I want to get a job. But you're saying, okay, I'll get into the thing because I want to try and figure out how to recruit people. How did it come about?
Okay. So I started my recruitment journey from, with expertons, right? So how it was that when COVID happened, lot of people, struggled to get a job, myself included. I'm 2020 graduate. So after 2020, and I started giving interviews because I was a back graduate. So getting job into finance and accounts was very difficult, and I was facing a lot of challenges to, land up a job, right? Giving interviews, applying for the job. Most of
Right.
the time, people are, not responding to the applications. I have applied multiple, to the multiple companies, reach out to the multiple HRs, but there are no responses. So I struggle myself to, get a job. So I thought, okay, I have, struggled on those things, right? I don't want others to struggle on that part. and I am by nature is an introvert, right? And HR is a people persons. HR is a skill or the department wherein you need to interact with a lot of people. And I initially at my career I struggled a lot because you need to connect with the top level management, higher level management, wherein in recruitment you recruit a person who have 20, 25, even 15, 20 years of experience, right? Hiring from the lower level management to the top level management, right? A recruiter has seen a lot. So I thought ki I don't want others to struggle to get into the jobs. I'll help others to get one.
Okay, so I think one of the factors, yes, you don't want others to struggle, so you made. But I guess this is a learning process. I don't think that there is anyone who can get to wherever they want without struggling. But Maima, how did your stint as a tour operator or a guide for people come about?
So, to be honest, Venu, I never thought about tourism. It is such a blooming field. It never crossed my mind. Uh, I'll just share an instance how I came to know about it and how I got into this field. So, once I was at the gym and I started having a conversation with this other girl, and we were just talking about what we do. So, back then I was a student. I graduated last year, and it was in my third year when I spoke to met this girl, and I spoke to her, and we were just exchanging a word when she told me that she works as a tour guide, and she told me what it feels like, what she does, and that immediately caught my attention. I was like, that's something I also want to do. I've never thought about it, but it sounds amazing. And that's when I went back home, did my browsing, checked out different agencies, and I came across one that kind of was more compatible to my schedule. So I work for this company called Nine Tours, where now I have the opportunity to host international guests in my own city from the comfort of my own place, places that I very well know. So, as a tour guide, what I have to do is take them across the city, talk about my culture, talk about my people, talk about what I do. And it's so fascinating to see them crack all of it and ask curious questions. I'll share an instance, very recent, where there was this one guy who came from Brazil. He's a professor. So he was just telling me how COVID has changed the scope of teaching. And since I had
Right.
just recently graduated, he was apologies. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So he was very keen to know my perspective on my country. So kind of forming an impression of India from the youth of India. So I was very fascinated to tell him more about it. And he started by asking me if people in India are they all good with maths? Do they all meditate? Just everybody eats spicy foods. And I was like, are these the kind of stereotypes that are so popular across the world about Indians? I said no, that's not very true. I mean, these things
Right.
might have been something very popular, but now not. So I get that exposure just to see how people think about India, what people think
How
about our
large were
country.
these groups, Maima?
So I have had the opportunity of hosting up to 8 people at once, and even as less as
Okay.
just one person at a time.
Okay. Okay. Great. So, Salman, uh, civil or criminal, what are the kind of things you're looking at, or are you looking at corporate law?
Yeah, it's yeah. Thanks. People ask me question that often. This you're not the first person to ask. So
Right.
right now I'm in my third year right now. So it's a lot of time to explore. But I'm gonna tell you what interests me a lot. So problem solving is that interests me a lot. But in corporates also there is problem solving. In civil also there is problem solving. In criminal also there is problem solving. So in future I've not yet decided, but in future I'm sure whichever field has a lot of problem solving, lot of thing to learn, and lot of thing to explore, I'm surely gonna enroll in that. But not just why just limit to ourselves to that. Why not explore different aspect as well? Like for example, in civil we have contracts, we have torts and everything. So that is really interesting part of a lawyer's job, that you get to solve problems on daily basis, and you get to explore different field as well. So I don't think I'm gonna limit myself to civil, criminal, and litigation or corporates. I'm going to explore as much as possible and as much as new problems that comes your way. And there is also one saying that you're what lawyer that your clients give you to be. If your client is
Yeah.
if your client comes up with a criminal brief, then you would have to accept that. If your client is has problems related to their office, or if they are assaulted and everything, then you're a criminal lawyer. So it's all depends, it's all based on the circumstances, I would say.
Okay.
And uh, and just like that, I love puzzles and everything, so I love problem solving. So my basis of lawyer is gonna be of solving different aspects of law and learning new things. So yeah,
Yeah.
so that's for me.
Okay, I don't think you'll ever have a shortage of problems to solve, because that's one of the things which, in India, cases just go on and on. So, as far
Yeah,
as
there's a lot of
solving
pending
problems is
cases.
concerned, yeah, there's a lot that needs to be done. Okay, so
Hmm.
Rachna, uh, how do you look at what are the kind of jobs you've recruited for, and what do you remember about some of the candidates you spoke to?
Sure. So most of the time, my hiring is to the lower level management to the middle level management. So I work for a tech company, right? So tech is a booming industry nowadays, wherein every other working professional want to pursue a degree or maybe the program wherein they can upgrade their skill set. Correct? Because the moment we stop learning, that is how we stop growing. Correct? So
Right,
now, when I started my journey as a recruiter, I have initially, recruited for the salespeople, and in this salespeople includes the junior level people, the team lead, managers, senior managers, head, and then again I have hired a talent acquisition manager. Imagine an
okay,
executive hiring a talent acquisition manager, but I have done that.
okay.
And again, into the technical aspect of it, be it
That would be
marketing.
easy, right? You know what a talent acquisition manager needs to know. That is one job for which you have an internal job description. You know exactly what is required.
Correct. So we have certain sort of criteria that what we look into a candidate, right? So, for
Right,
example, if I'm hiring for a talent acquisition manager, what sort of experience that person should have? What are the certain
right.
expertise? What kind of hands-on experience? What kind of hiring, be it bulk, lateral, niche? What kind of hiring they have done? I still remember my first niche hiring in my life. So, as I said, I hired a senior manager, and that person has 17 years of experience. So, when we initially started conversating, I explained him what exactly his job role looks like in my company, what my company is, and what we are looking into. And fortunately, the things match to each other, and that person has onboarded. He said, "Rachna, I want to meet you personally, and thank you for the same." So he met me and he said, "Rachna, never thought that you would be this young." Because that person was 37, 38, and I was 22 at that particular time.
Okay,
So my job is very fascinating, getting to know people, understanding their job role, because they are the industry expert. They have been in the industry for 10 years, 15 years, you know, and it's very fascinating when you meet new people, you understand what their job role is and how they are adding value to the company and how they are adding value to their own role and how they are growing professionally. So if one of my candidates is doing great professionally, it make me proud that they are my hire and they are doing well.
yeah. So it's almost as if you definitely had a role to play in that. So that's a great benefit to have. Okay. So, Maima, what did you do in Teach for India, right? That's one of the things that you took up. Hello. Yeah. Can you hear me, Maima? I don't think you. I think there's a problem with the sound. You're on mute, Maima. One sec. Yeah. Okay. I'll come back to you. Okay. So, Salman, what are some of the cases that you remember? What is it that you have done, or you have either discussed in class or done, some? Do you have some
Yeah,
kind of practicals? Do you have some things
yeah.
that you?
So one of my favorite cases is environment, MC Mehta versus Union of India, in which
Okay,
they talk about the environment, so how environment is getting endangered. And there's a lot of MC Mehta is uh, a civil activist. He files a lot of PILs, public interest
right,
litigation, in which
right,
so if the river is getting polluted, so he will find a PIL, public interest litigation, on the court.
right.
And uh, and then the case will go on for the easement of the public. So what at times happens is that a lot of companies, lot of people, they are taken for granted, and all the toxic are being released in the rivers and etc. For that we file public interest litigation when the public at large is getting um harassed and nuisance is caused. So at that time they file PIL for the benefit of the public. So that is one case that I love a lot, because that is related to public and how public interest matters at large. And when
Okay,
companies and everyone take them for granted, we can file PIL, public interest litigation, for their interest. So that's the
okay.
area I love a lot, and MC Mehta
That you're
is
really
a good
interested
activist. Yes.
in. Great. That's one of the areas which will always be very important. So, Maima,
Yeah,
what I was
environment.
asking was, yeah, the environment. So, Maima, what I was asking is, what was your experience in Teach for India? You,
Oh, so
uh,
I was a student at Teach for India. So I had fellows come into my school, and they took the ownership of kind of doing that social work for us. And of course,
okay,
I'm one of those beneficiaries who have experienced quality education, and that being
right,
the reason. Later on, after I finished my schooling, I chose to volunteer. And Teach for India offers a 2-year fellowship program which allows
right.
passionate youth to go out there in schools, experience the reality on ground, and bring about a change. So, since I was aware of this concept, when I was with Teach for India as a volunteer, I went into an 8th grade school during COVID. So obviously you couldn't interact with them in person. So I took classes online. I was teaching geography and I was teaching civics. So not the greatest
Okay,
subjects, but I tried to make them as interesting as I could. That was my first experience, an online experience. But besides that, I had also volunteered in a 10th grade school when I myself was hardly like in my second year, like junior college second year. So that was when
okay,
I volunteered in a 10th grade school. So all big kids, everyone very curious. So I think that experience to just be with my similar age group and be on the other side of the table where you are obviously learning a lot, but getting the experience of being a student and a teacher together was
right.
something I think is invaluable as an experience.
Okay, wonderful. So, Rachna, in terms of recruitment, uh, what aspects of the job are get to be a routine, and what is it that you find is going through hundreds of applications? I'm sure that is not such a big fun thing, right?
Okay. So my job role include, start, for example, when I get the job description, I try to understand, what company or the top level management is looking into their hire, right? So it start from screening. So for example, we headhunt sometimes, we get applications. So that is in-house and progress, right? So we start getting applications. First, the screening call wherein I connect with people. I try to understand, what we are looking to the candidate and if they fulfill that criteria, right? After screening, there is a shortlisting round wherein I myself shortlist that candidate if they are good to go to the management level for the interview. So once
Okay,
shortlisting is done, then the interview process wherein the interviews aligned as per the job description. So, for example, for the sales guy, there could be 2 to 3 rounds of interview, but for the marketing or the technical role, there would be one round of interview. Then there could be assignment. and after that the final round of interview. So follow up with the candidates, make sure they are attending the interview, connecting with the high level management, try to take their time slots if they are available on the same time, and then again scheduling the interview, and after follow back, right? If they this candidate are selected or rejected. If rejected, we politely tell them, okay, unfortunately, what skill set we are looking out for, you carry a different skill set, right? Unfortunately, we cannot match and we won't be able to move ahead with your candidature. But if a candidate gets getting selected, then starting with the pre-offer stage, wherein we collect the documents from the candidate and we verify them, and then having a background verification if that candidate is clean enough to work in a corporate
Right.
culture, right? And then after having a background verification, releasing their offer letter, negotiating on their notice period, how soon they can join, and of course once the offer letter is released, getting their acceptance, and make sure they onboard us with very smoothly, because if a candidate is joining your organization, they have certain set of expectations from us. They are looking out for good company, the good culture, the good management, and of course a professional growth. So we make sure that what promises and what assurance we are giving them, we make sure to fulfill those assurance and promises.
Great. Okay, so Salman, I think there's a question from Deepa, and she's asked, so do you have to you pay fees to file a PIL? Do you go through a lawyer? Do you directly file it in
Yeah.
court?
So we have to hire a lawyer to file PIL, public interest litigation, or if you want to appear by your own, you have to follow the procedure of bar council, and then if they find you qualified enough, then only you can appear. But most of the time it's going to be a lawyer, and there is going to be specific amount of payment that has to be done, that will be given in the government site. That it won't be that much because it's public interest litigation, so it will be a little bit in the website that will be provided. It differs from lot of the time, but for and yeah, public interest, you have to hire a lawyer and the fees will be given in the website. Yeah, also if you want to appear, then you have to follow the procedures of bar council, and then if they deem you as a qualified person, then they can you can proceed further.
Okay, great. Thanks. So now that you have described your jobs to some extent, and what is it that you do, um, at this stage, I want to figure out, okay, how are you seeing the future? I don't want 3 year plans and 5 year plans. I'm saying because I know that they're kind of, uh, it's hard to try and figure out exactly what you need to do to reach that next stage. So, Maima, can you start with saying, what do you think you'll be doing in the next 4 to 6 months? And then where do you hope to be as you move ahead? Or are you changing careers, changing line altogether? How do you think it'll happen?
Um, so I feel at this point, right now I'm a project coordinator at an e-learning company, and next 6 months, I envision to kind of grow in this field at this point, and at the same time seek promotion, you can say, to kind of climb up the ladder. And additionally, I'm also an youth advisory member at Antarang Foundation. So my involvement in the foundation is going to be more moving on because now I've been finally onboarded. So I'm trying to balance two things over here. One is my social work side and the other is my corporate side. So I want to grow in my, ensure that my upskilling is not stopping. And at the same time, I also want to strive and ensure that my personal life, in terms of whether it's working out, eating clean, being mindful, meditation, all of these little things that make my life keep it on track, all of these things are going hand in hand, and that I'm able to balance it. But I'm also actively planning to do my master's, just doing a bit of research on it. So, collectively 6 months looks like a good time for me to get all of these together and just balance it out.
Okay, great. So, uh, Rachna, okay, salary. How important is the salary as the first part, or do you think that experience is more important to you right now as opposed to making big money right away?
All right. So I am planning to get more experience and exposure into my career right now. All right. So the reason why I feel that initially when you start your career, you get paid to what you do. But once you get hands on experience, when you develop a skill set or expertise, you mostly get paid of what you are or who you are rather than what you are doing, right? I can give an example. So, for example, in IPL, we obviously follow cricket, right? So we know that Virat Kohli is a good player. So Virat Kohli do not get paid to play cricket, but he get paid because what he's bringing to the table, right? He get paid to on his name rather than what he's actually doing, right? So that sort of expectation I have from me right now. I want to focus to develop my skill set and expertise and want to get paid for who I am rather than what I am doing exactly.
Okay. So, so how do you arrive at that value? Is it that is it something that the company's salary structure? So, do you does this become the focus of a lot of discussion between you and your friends?
Right, right. It does obviously. The reason why when we initially start our career, be it me or my friends or any out person who just graduated, the major focus is how they get into the corporates and what kind of big money they make, right? So when I started my journey, I always thought, I want to make this amount of money at this particular age, or maybe I want to achieve this kind of designation at this age, right? That set of expectation is still with me, right? And I am expecting a growth in my life wherein I can prove through my work first, and of course, and I believe that if I can add value, obviously, my salary or the promotion or the whatever expecting I'm in terms of money will come, obviously.
Okay, great. So, Salman, how does it work? In most cases, I think lawyers, you first have to apprentice with someone, right? Or it's
Yeah,
hard to get cases entirely by yourself.
yeah,
If you,
yeah.
yeah. So,
So in most cases, as you start out your lawyering journey, you get the license, you get the sanad, which is called the lawyer's license. You give the AIB examination, which is All India Bar Council examination. So you give all of
right,
that. Then you have to work under some senior lawyer. So you have to learn about the cases, just like a doctor. So you would have to do internships. You would have to be a junior lawyer or somewhere. First, you have to learn that thing, or else if you go directly into that, if you go directly to a client, then your client can get a harm, get in bad cases and stuff, and they can land in
right,
they can land in trouble. So just like doctors, if a doctor doesn't work under some senior and senior or someone, so they can land their patients in trouble, or they can make the matter worse. So we also have to be under someone. We have to learn the procedures, the laws, and etc. So whatever the best possible thing is available for our client, we provide them with that solution. We provide them with that way path that is possible, and how they can redeem themselves if they have done something wrong. Our job is to try to best and redeem themselves, and provide them the best solution they can walk further in in their path ahead.
right. So, Maima, what's your take on salaries? And do you think earning a big salary right in the beginning is important, or do you think that it's important to acquire experience and then pitch your value at a certain level?
I absolutely feel that experience and exposure is the key in the start. As beginners, it's important for us to learn and understand what it is that will take us a long way. Obviously, money does not harm, but that sort of a mindset in the beginning, I think, will not take you a long way. So, starting with understanding, starting with exploration, and starting with passion is the key. It'll take you a long way, and it will ultimately put you in a position where your work will speak for things and where you wouldn't have to, constantly run after money. So I think that's how stories are, right? If you see a lot of these other successful people, or let's call them people with the riches, they did not start with the initial mindset of immediately earning things. They started with the mindset of making a change. They started with the mindset of solving a problem. That's one thing that I really admire, is to do something creative, is to start or solve something that's existing, because that's where you fill the gap. As youth, I think it's very important for us to identify the gaps in our generation, fill them up, find a solution, and ultimately it will bring you, the journey will bring you in a position where money will not be a problem for you. So yeah, that's how I
Okay,
think at
great.
least.
Right. So 9 to 5, 666. The thing that Alibaba said that uh, 6 days a week, 6 to 6, and 12 hours a day. What is your take on that, Rachna?
All right. So I feel that, a job is 9 to 6 ultimately. We are all seeking what the person is passionate about. For example, for me, that is reading and writing. Okay. So even though I am working in as HR with at a company, but again, my passion is into reading and writing. So I am continuously, learning and relearning myself into the poetry or through the writing. I want to establish myself as a writer or poet rather than an HR going forward. So, I am writing side by side when I get time on my weekends, when my office, when there is my off. I am planning, that my core calling is writing, wherein I read, when you hear a song with the lyrics are so good, or where you read a writing which is so pure that it touches your heart, right? And when I read a book which is so good that it shook me to the core, wherein I need to, sit back and think, okay, what we are doing 9 to 5 is not your actual calling. This is not your life is, and not how you should lead your life. So I want to make that change into the writing. I want to establish myself as a writer or poet, wherein I can write something so beautiful that people can read and relate to it.
Okay, but in terms of, okay, where people have to today, I'm saying if you're in a corporate job or you're working, I think most of us can't escape the fact that it's at least 10 hours or 12 hours, at least in the beginning. So, what's your individual take on something like this? Is it okay to start working for much longer hours? There was this huge controversy about Narayan Murthy saying that you need to do 70-hour weeks. So, let me ask you individually what your take on that is. 70-hour
So as
weeks.
yeah, so as per my take, I believe at one point of time we have to work 70 hours a day, 70 hours a week, and etc. At one point of time, at beginning, at the very initial stage, I believe we all, if you want to get into that stage, if you want to get into that level, we all have to work that much hour. But we should not compromise our health, our inner artist to die in that process. There should be time allotted, there should be a bit of time allotted to what you love. Also, there is one saying, at one particular time, whatever job you love, it becomes burden at one particular time. If you keep on doing that. So being human, being a human, we all have choices, we all have desire. So you should love what you do, and it should never like at that point when it becomes burden, should never get to that point. You should keep exploring, and you should never let your inner artist die. So in my case, for example, I read a lot. I read a lot of cases and etc. But at one point of time, my mind becomes like bleak. I cannot see anything. All you do is read, screen time, and etc. But I'm a poet myself, I'm a writer myself. I like to write poetry, and play games, play chess, and etc. So I don't I take a lot of time for myself too, because I don't want my inner child, I don't want my inner artist to die. And I want to keep on drawing. I want to draw a lot. I want to watch podcasts like this. For example, I love to watch podcasts when I go to sleep.
Okay.
People having
I get that,
conversation.
Salman. But if you're doing 70-hour weeks, where is the time for anything else? Okay, let me ask
Yeah, sure.
Maima and then come to you.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
So I particularly believe that working for such extended long hours takes away the you time that one deserves, that me time, I would rather call it, which is very important for us to reflect for our long term, thinking. So my personal take on working extensive hours, especially in our Indian work culture, it's very toxic. I mean, if you don't work for late hours, you are not working hard. If you leave early, you're not giving enough inputs. Such sort of a mindset is something that is fostered in our work culture. And I believe it's a toxic work culture. The way it ideally should be functioning is that if you're assigned certain tasks, which is appropriate for your particular working hours of, output, that's how you should go about it. Just bombarding an employee with tasks by justifying it as, you are not doing enough, if you are not staying up late here, or if you're not mixing the two lives. If you see, there are so many employees out there, managers, senior managers, VPs, who when they go back, they will still be working. So where do we draw the line between our work life and our personal life if we are going to mix the two? Yeah. You see, people have these expectations that when you're on leave, when you're on vacation, still you have to answer the calls, join those important client meetings. I mean, then what is the whole point of taking a
Yeah.
break? Imagine if we have to take a break from the work we do. That means something is pretty wrong there. If we are being pushed to work to X number of hours, that means there's something we don't want to do. And pushing someone to do something they don't want to do is not the ultimate solution, is what I feel.
Great. Okay. So, Rachna, what's your take? I'm sure that one of the things that comes up in interviews is how many hours will I be told to work every, and you yourself, how many hours do you put in every week? And this
Sure.
is something that Deepa asked. She said, "Is there a book you can remember that really touched your heart?" Anyway, we'll come to that. But tell me about the number of hours first.
All right. So I feel that when we give interview to some company, right, and we are working to certain roles, the job description has already been laid out, right? For example, if I'm working as a talent acquisition executive, my roles and responsibilities are already defined, that what I'll be doing in the morning, in the afternoon, or in the evening, right? So what I feel that productivity matters more rather than what numbers of hours I'm working, right? So for example, if my task is to get selection of a senior manager or maybe manager, you should ask me that what kind of quality I'm giving rather than what kind of quantity I'm putting out, right? So it
Yeah.
doesn't make any
No,
sense
that's the
receiving.
ideal situation, Rachna. I agree with what you're saying, but is that
Right.
an ideal situation? Because in most cases, it is whether you've got your job done or not. Are you putting in a certain number of hours every uh, week? That gets to be one of the yardsticks. So, how do you get around that?
Okay.
Is
So
there a
most
way
of the
out,
time it
or do
happens.
you? Huh?
Okay. So as I just started my journey, right, and I feel that when people start their journey, they feel a lot of pressure from the upper level management, that I cannot
Right,
say no to, I cannot say no. What if I? People are very hesitant about talking about it. Right? I
right,
myself has sometimes stretch my working hours. For example, if my shift is ending at 7, I most of the time have set 8:30, right? I've been told by your manager, Rachana, if you are putting an extra hour, it could add value to your role. You can showcase the management that you are a very hardworking employee, and the terms of the rewards and recognition, wherein they award you the best employee of the month and the quarter, right? To make sure that people are feeling that they are doing wonderful. But I feel
yeah,
this is not an ideal situation, because, as Mahima pointed out, me time is very important, because a job is a part of your life. It's not your life, right? So,
it's not your
as
life.
in
Yeah,
your life, a job, a family time, friends time, and particularly me time is very important.
great. Okay, so now let's move on to another slightly touchy topic. Salman, how would you handle a boss you can't get along with?
I'll quit.
That's okay right now, but
I
I'm saying
mean,
if it
I
if
mean,
you've not faced a
I,
situation where, let's say, it's
uh,
important to you to, let's say that the boss, the person you're working for, wields a lot of influence in the business. He's somebody who can get across, and maybe he has a very hard way of working.
yeah.
So will you continue to stay and figure things out, or you're saying I'll quit and then go work with a
No,
boss who's going to give me an
so
option?
sometimes sometimes mental health is also very important. So what would I do with the job where my health is like sacrificed, and when I come home and I'm really stressed? So the best option would be to talk to my boss with clearly that like this is not the atmosphere that I want right now. And I'll tell him that my mental health is really sacrificed, and like all my, like I can't do good research, I can't do good I mean, whatever the job I am doing, I can't put my 100% in if you could not respect me. So respect is also matters, because what we are providing services, and respect should be mutual. And I'll personally, if that continues, then I would have to take steps, and I would have to resign and look for the better
Okay,
opportunity. So
great.
that's what
I,
I'll.
yeah, I think that's fair. So, okay,
Yeah.
Maima, let's see. What is your take on working with a toxic work environment?
Could you repeat the question? Sorry, I couldn't hear you properly.
No, what is your impression? Suppose you had a boss who was difficult to work for. You didn't know to begin with. And then uh, how would you handle the situation?
Honestly, I cannot work in a toxic culture. That's just how I am. So the moment I feel, I'll obviously try. Since sometimes you need to get out of your comfort zone to learn, but not so much so that you lose yourself. Where if you feel that you're not being you in your workplace, then that's not the right place for you, and you don't have to fit in such environment, and you can politely leave. So fortunately, the companies that I have associated myself with, I have never come across such toxic culture that I have to step out. But if in future I encounter any organization where my manager or anybody, with authority is toxic or is making the culture toxic, I think I have the courage to step out. First of all, bring it to the notice, highlight it, and then step out if there's no resolution to it. So that's how I would take an action.
Okay, great. So, Maima, let me also, sorry, Rachana, let me first the book. Is there a book that, because that question you didn't have time to come back to? The second thing is, how do you see your role in HR changing?
All right. So I'll start with the book first. So I
Yeah.
still remember my first book. The name was For Agreement. Okay. And this book is a self help book, but I feel that it has a very huge impact in my life. And it is written
Okay.
by Don McGill. So it just, laid out four agreement to live a life that, be impeccable with your words. And then the last, which I like the most, is do your best, right? So it's that in a particular situation, a person should always do their best, despite the fact that people or you are expecting most out of it. You shouldn't feeling guilty or bad that something has did not work out for you. You just have to do your 100%. If you feel that you have given your 100%, you have given your best, you shouldn't be feeling bad about the outcome or the results. So that was my first book, and I still remember it very vividly, what kind of impact it has in my life. And after that, I read so many books, right? But that agreement still with
This
me
still stays
wherever.
with you. Okay.
Yeah, it
Great.
stays with me.
Four
And
agreements. Yeah.
perfect. And the last question, what was the question?
In terms of toxic work culture, what is your take on that, and how would you respond to being in that culture?
All right. So what I feel that clear communication and comprehension is a key first. So for example, if my manager is very hard to work with, I'll try to communicate that what kind of difficulties I'm facing working with him. Because I feel that initially, just because we have certain different perspective over things, quitting is not a right solution. I'll go to him. We will sit down together. We will discuss things. Ki, this is how I work, or this is how I work, and this is how you want me to work. Right? Let's figure it out. Things done, because our ultimate results is the delivery of the task, right? Rather than how it has been done. Correct. So I'll try to communicate. Try to understand them. This is how my way of working. But if they fail to do so, obviously, being mental peace with myself, I'll quit. But as an HR, it is my responsibility to make sure that we don't live in that situation, because we are the people who hire people, right? We are the people who balance out things between the upper level management and the lower level management, right? What's the use of the HR if we don't bring notice to the management that what you are doing is on the stake of the people, their mental health, right? Rather than
Okay,
let's make a policies, rules and regulation which can help organization to grow. Because what I feel, that if a workplace is a toxic workplace, it won't grow. It would never
right.
grow, right? Because people will come and leave. Ultimately, it's the loss of the management, and they won't be running their organization for a long run. So as a HR, it is my responsibility to make sure that we have a very civil and friendly environment to work with. And I myself as an individual, I try to communicate, make them understand. If things are working out well and good, or either I see myself or
Find
somewhere
your own
else.
way. Okay, terrific. Okay, we've almost spent an hour now, 50 minutes. So it's
Yeah.
time to wind up. And I'd like to ask each one of you in terms of uh, now, what is your long term? What is it that you'd like to do in future, and where do you see one particular profession, or do you see yourself switching professions going ahead? Salman?
Yeah, so as you mentioned about switching and everything, lawyer is so vast field. Like if you go everywhere, like you encounter the same, like you encounter physics, you encounter medical science and everything. So I don't think I'll switch. Also, the my long term plan will be like I recently I went to my native place, and beside that place there was a village called Kadluru. So in that village, one of my teachers started an organization, and he manages 5 schools. So I went over there to volunteer, and it had a huge impact in me. I want to contribute to things like that, and do social work and empower people in rural areas and empower women in rural areas. So the organization name is Kanavu. So it means a dream in Tamil. Also, so it's really situated in my native area. So I want to contribute in organizations like that, and I want to grow and earn, and so I can contribute in there and volunteer in such organization like that, and that I'll excel in that, and future I'm planning to do that.
Great. I think you already have uh, ecological and social kind of bent of mind. All the best,
Yeah,
Salman. What about
thank
you,
you.
Mahima? What is your take on how do you see yourself doing in future? Do you think that you will? There are two or three things that you have in mind, and then you'll decide on one of them, or how do you see it playing out?
So when I think I have possibilities, I can not narrow it down to one profession. Maybe that's just me, that I cannot stick to one thing and take it for long. For me, it's more like I can keep exploring. Even let's say a decade or two later, I believe I won't be sticking to one profession. I will be doing two to three things which really are close to my heart. Like if you see, even right now, I like to take tours. I have a full time job, but I'm also associated with an NGO. You see, three things, but all of them fulfill me so much that it's not like I feel that I'm multitasking. At no point do I feel exhausted with any of the associations that I have made. So I think even several years down the line, when I have, let's say, taken up a full-time job, I will still be able to take up more roles which will be adding to me as a person. I remember this one session that I had attended in college, where there was a guest speaker, and that guest speaker particularly mentioned about the fact that We don't have to limit ourselves to one profession in our life and take it for the rest of your lives. You can be so many people in our lives. We play so many roles, right? We are not just daughters, right? We're so many more personalities, and we can unleash them even when we talk about our careers. It doesn't have to be just one role. So I think I'll stick by that. I will explore more things, and I'll stick to not just one. So that's how I look at it.
Marvelous. Rachna, where do you want to sort of project into the future, and what do you think you'd like to explore?
Sure. So HR as a field is very vast. So I am part of the recruitment now. So if you see, HR includes recruitment, journalism, HRBP, and then policy management, right? So most of the time, the company laid out policies. HR play a very huge important role. So I would like to part of the HR. I'm part of recruitment now. I want to be part of HR operations, HRBP going forward. And as I said, I love to read and write. I would try my luck into writing. I would like to publish books in future, hopefully, and other so many things. And I'm very keen towards learning psychology. So I hope the role currently I am in HR is a very people's role. So I would like to understand people more. I would like to understand why people are how they are actually. So everyone have their own story to tell. It's just that we do not have enough time to stop and listen somebody. So I would like to be that person who listens stories all across and explore much more things in future.
Wonderful. So it's been a great experience talking to all of you, and all
Thank
of
you.
you are, you've got so many plans of uh, getting out there and doing so much more. I think one of the things that I'm picking up from this is that you definitely aren't looking at a single, the way careers were 30 or 40 years ago, where people started in one organization. It's not even one organization, it could be different fields, it could be different areas of operation. And all the best. May success be yours in every, and more than let's say salaries and things like that. The fact that you're happy with what you're doing and content about the kind of careers you've built for yourself, I think that's going to be the important bit. Thank you all for joining me on the show, and wishing you the very best for the future.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Renu.
you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank
It
Thank
you.
was a
Thank you so much.
pleasure speaking to you.
Great. Thank you
yeah.
very much. So that was our panel this time. I hope you enjoyed the session. Next week, we'll be back with another career journey, and then figure out what life has to offer. Join us again next week.